say that it feels right.
What's up YouTube, it's the Blender, and today we're going to go through what I think is the best start for universally any character in
I was born 87 years.
Now, this is Master difficulty, right? Now I know there's a whole bunch of conversations around Master difficulty being too hard, etc, right? And I'm of the mind, or in the camp, where Master difficulty is designed around people who understand the inner complexities of the game, how those little systems work, right? It's not designed for every build to function or every type to work. Some of those things are, for example, say, conjuration, right? It ignores difficulty, right? It doesn't actually technically ignore difficulty. It's just that when you create a summon, right, it is very specifically tagged as the unit type, right? So like summon Daedroth summons a Daedroth. It is, right, to the game, it is a Daedroth, right? And so it doesn't know that there's any difference between the Daedroth that is in the game already, or that is an enemy, and the one that has the player. Basically, it never got the player tag, so it never gets divided by 6, right? The same thing happens with poisons, right? Where poisons are considered an application on self. So if you read them, right, if you looked at a poison, it says, you know, apply this to self, right? So rather than being applied by the character and getting the divided by 6 modifier, it specifically just says it's as if that person, right, that enemy drank the poison themselves, and so it does unabated exactly the damage that it would, you know, that it says in its tooltip, right? Whereas if you are casting a spell, right, and you're casting a spell for 6 damage, which I think flare is like 6 damage. The early destruction spell you get. If that's the one that you're casting at 6 damage on Master, it's technically only doing 1 damage, period, right? And so when you get to, you know, melee, the same thing sort of happens, but instead of doing 6 damage per swing on a weapon, right, the dagger is doing 1, the long sword is doing 2, the short sword is doing 2, right? These values are divided by 6, right? So you're doing fractional amounts of damage, right? Which possibly can, I'm not sure if it has like a low cap where like you can never do less than 1, right? But it's pretty obvious that the number values are sort of doing that, because well, I mean, because you do have other things being like modifying the damage you do, right? Like with your skills and stuff like that. So we're gonna make this universal start. Now you can technically do this with any character, right? I'm going to choose the Breton. The reason I'm going to choose the Breton is because he is the best character or class in the game, specifically for the resistance to magical energies. They get 50% resist. Their activatable is 50% defense, right? If you also pick the Lordstone, you get another 15% on top of that, which makes really good early game, but doesn't scale into the late game as well, because eventually you get to the armor cap and resist cap anyway. So I don't pick that sign. Well, I'll explain that more when we get there. So, but the other races, right? So like Orc gets 25% resistance to magic. It's doable, right? This start is doable by any character in the game, right? So play what you want to play, right? Just know that if you aren't picking Breton, right, you are creating a scenario where you will need to know more about the game in order to get to those caps, in order to get to those things, right? Or you'll need to know where you're going to acquire more gear in order to shore up some of those defenses. So, and then like if you ever want to know what their skills are, you pop out and you can go to like the high rock and whatnot. Stress is better, right? I want the 40 strength because eventually in this in theory, this character would go for the strength. I would never prioritize the speed 40 over the strength 40. I want the carry weight and the damage on the long sword, etc., etc. So let's get into it. Universal start. Now we're gonna come up here. Some of the things. So I played a bunch of Skyrim, right? Obviously, I didn't play near as much classic.
The masters of Magica, right?
But in Skyrim, one of the things that makes legendary difficult is that the world levels prior, whenever you gain the level. Right? And so I think one of the things that they learned from Oblivion, because in Oblivion, and even in the remaster, the world doesn't level until you sleep and actually put your voice in. Right? Now, so this is cheesed sometimes by some people, right? Where they basically just stay at the low levels, so the world never levels up. You'll never see glass armor or desert armor on enemies, etc. But because you can scale your ability up, and scaling your ability up does make your spells cheaper, right? Like, you could be summoning a Daedroth or a Dremora Lord or some sort of, like, larger summon, right? Or doing, you know, a crazy,
What's
like,
this prisoner
50,
doing here?
60 point
This
spell.
cell is supposed to be off limits.
Usual mix up with the watch.
Super like as 1
Never
second,
mind.
right?
Get
With
that
no
gate
weakness
open.
stack, right? And
Stand
you wouldn't
back,
necessarily
prisoner.
need it
We won't
because
hesitate
you'd
to
be
kill you if you
blowing
get in
things
our
up
way.
at level 1, and
You
the world
prisoner,
would be scaled at
stand
level 1.
Over by the
The only
window.
thing, there are
Stay
very
out of the
few
way and
things
you
in the
won't get
game
hurt.
that are much higher. So
side
things like
pursuits.
Umbra,
Stay
who
put,
is
prisoner.
always level
Let's go.
50 regardless.
We're
of
not
what
out
your
of this
level is.
yet.
So, and those are rare, right? So as long
I've
as you knew which
seen
ones those
you.
were and you avoided them, you'd
Let
probably
me see
be
your
fine.
face.
And even then,
You are the
at
one
level
from
1,
my
you could
dreams.
set up a
Then
weakness
the
stack
stars
with
were right.
Paralyze, right? It would be
This
cheap
is
enough
the
that you
day.
could cast it
Gods
multiple
give me
times,
strength.
and even if something was nasty,
Assassin,
right,
by
you would just
by
murder it
chance.
down because of how those things stack. And
Perhaps
that's just
as
knowing
that,
those
I am your-
mechanics underneath.
So do
Please, sire, we must keep moving.
So we're going to, it's technically, so what I call it is
Better not
universal
close this
start,
one. There's
right?
no way to
Really,
open it from the
what
other
that means
side.
is basically death
This
stroke,
doesn't concern you,
right? So
prisoner.
we're going to use destruction
Looks like
to do
this
it.
is your
The
lucky
reason
day.
for that is because
Just
destruction,
stay out of our way.
unlocking destruction early is the best way to guarantee success in the game, even if you're not doing a destruction character. And I'll sort of explain that.
Keep quiet and
But
stay
for
out
now,
of the way.
we're obviously trying to follow the slow Boris and get through it. Some people they'll like hit these guys. You can do it for like optimization's sake, right? Kind of like how you used to. Some people sometimes you would train your skills on Rayloff.
Close up left. Protect the Emperor.
So I know it's like
Protect yourself.
5 attacks with swords. So I'm
Your
1,
destiny calls you down a different road. Please help. This can only lead to your destiny calls you
don't hit
down a
6.
different
Are you all right,
road.
sire?
Please
Right, so you
help
can do
us,
that
Captain
here.
Reno.
1,
That's not that's
Boris
not
here.
smart. Don't know. Do you have a death wish? Don't worry, sir.
Yep, he
We
says don't
will
do it
get you
again.
out of here.
They won't be the first to underestimate
out.
the blade.
Can we wait an hour? Oh, we can already wait an hour.
You don't want to do that again.
You stay here, prisoner.
You don't want to do that again. I'm out of patience.
Nope, that's too much. What is he doing? Oh, messed that game up.
Don't worry, sire. We will
They
get
won't
you
be
out
the
of here.
first
I told you.
to underestimate the blades.
Okay, so what I did there is
I'll take
apparently
point.
it,
Let's move.
saved there.
You
And
stay
so,
here, prisoner.
If you
Don't try to
guard
follow
and
us.
talk to them really fast, then you can get out of it. Alright, so we're looking for the potions. None there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? And what we're looking for is we just want number of casts, really. We can circle strafe these guys, right? Which means we basically just go in a circle, and they can't hit us. Oh, potion of sorcery. And we'll try to avoid casting restoration magic as much as possible. 1, 2. It's not that we can't. We just don't. Oh, he didn't. He didn't jump like I wanted him to. Nice healing potion. And we could have killed him, right? We could have pulled the sword out and killed him, right? But if we did that, we wouldn't have as many levels of destruction. So it takes 4 to kill him. All right. Now I'm not going to pick up the rat meat. You could, but we don't need it. An out of combat regen is significantly faster than in combat regen. You can also wait an hour anytime you have need of it, assuming that you've killed all the mobs. Rest of our daggers, this is 1 damage. Well, we're not going to use it. We'll take these just in case we want to sell them. This minigame is easy once you understand it. If you don't understand it, Old Knight has a really good video about it. Some other people have really good videos explaining like how to do that minigame. That's right. Stop trying to loot him. We'll take this. There we go. Now, one of the things that we have here is we don't have heavy armor yet, so we're going to put the heavy armor on. It's in that box right there. But because we don't have heavy armor, right? Like these things are dying in 4 hits. There we go. Oh, I did it again. And we'll want as much as we can here. Put this on. Okay, which means I think we can get rid of all this. Let's be clean. Put it in here. Okay, and then this is extra weight we don't need, steel sword, weight we don't need. The katana is basically, it's better, right? Obviously, because it's a higher quality thing. And now that makes us a little slower, right? But the reason we put it on is specifically for this 86% spell effectiveness, because we want it to take longer and more spells for us to kill something. And the reason we wanted to do that is because the leveling of our skills is based on the amount of mana that we expend, which is the new formula for this game. Now the rat's gonna go. He did his work. Heavy armor will make it so that if we do manage to get hit, that's a thing, but it will just come over here. And then over here. And then over here. Ah, hey. You're not supposed to go over across that. Yeah. Wait till he comes over there. Now technically I shouldn't have casted that because now I have to wait the 2 seconds for the mana regen. So it's better for me, especially like if he's got a high health bar, right, that I don't know that I'll be able to kill him, right, to save up more mana during this fight or in this phase. Right, but he was pretty low, so I'm going to let him come to this side and then go over here. Get him to... Yeah. There we go. Now here, you could... No, that's damage fatigue. That would be a poison we would just sell. Right? Now, alchemy is broken in this game. Just like it is in Skyrim, it's broken in that game. In this game, it makes it so that the regen, so like if you made a regen health, regen stamina, regen magicka potion, right? And you can, let's say you were at 100 alchemy, you can pop 10 of those. And those ignore the combat reduction, right? So all spells, or all mana, okay, so it's still only taking 4, damn. All mana, or mana, health, and stamina are regen at reduced rates of 1/10 of their normal when you are in combat. And so, like, if you you can do it with spells for fatigue, right? There is no spell to regen mana. That would be hilariously redundant. Now we don't want to get that heavy armor skill. See, we got one. We're wearing the heavy armor because we want it to make our spells harder to kill things, so that we use more of them. So that we use more mana, so that we level faster. That's what we want, right? But if he hits us, right, or if we take a bunch of hits, we'll get heavy armor skill. And because that they level, right? Those skills level fast, right? Generally, they level faster early, right? Because they level faster early, they can be sort of like a problem for your overall level, because especially if you're leveling naturally, like, hey, I got my skills, or I just got a level up and don't get it like put in, etc. If you're doing that, that's a big problem, or can be a problem. I think it's more organic, and I prefer it to be that way. I think most people do, like most of, like, if I make a guide or a game build or something like that, it's unless otherwise explicitly stated, like, it doesn't work without this, right? You're typically just looking to do that. But if it doesn't say something explicitly stated, right, like it doesn't work without this, then it's ideally run around the idea that you're going to be leveling up. Now, I need to stop attacking, apparently. There we go. Now we're putting the sword on only so that we can cast, right? Hey. What are you doing there, bud? I didn't expect you till being around a corner. Stop it. There. Now you did. Now, rather than heal that all up, right? Now, if I was doing like a melee build with restoration and you know, blade skill or something like that, I might heal that out or for as long as possible, or with my mana bar as much as possible, to get as many restoration skill levels in there as possible. I dropped the block. I put it up instinctually. I dropped it so that I could not get block levels. I'm wearing it because it also further reduces the effectiveness, spell effectiveness, and this spell effectiveness will stay lower based off of the armor that I'm wearing, right? It would be, if I had 50 heavy armor and I'm wearing all heavy armor, then I would have 95% effectiveness. And that 95% is actually a big deal, especially when it comes to like CC and stuff like that, and it usually isn't overcome until you get to 50 of the, you see, like, that rat's taken an amount. Look at him go. That's what we want. That's what we want. 4 or 5 spells. That rat was beefier than the last couple. Or, no, we finally got these 2 pieces, so we dropped our effectiveness from 85% to 78. So we've reduced how much damage we get to do, but thus increasing the amount of mana we have to do to kill these same enemies, which causes us to level more of the skill. Stop it. Stop hitting my heavy armor. I don't want those levels. Thanks. I'll try to be better with my my casting. Now there will be some enemies like goblins or stuff like that where we probably have to block. those up. Those restore health. These, I think, I don't remember if that's damage fatigue. Damage health. So this can be combined with other things for early poisons. And you do get, like, I think this decoy will do it. Damage health. Yeah, so you could technically make your own poisons now. A couple of them. And that comes after this next fight, right? So like you start getting alchemy ingredients on the ground, and then all of a sudden you fight a mob here, and he happens to have alchemy stuff. So we're just gonna give him our entire mana bar. Like that. Like that. Block there. Now we have to run. Now because... Oh, don't die. And this is the hard part about Destro, doing a Destro this way. Is like now we have to sort of like kite and run for our, and let our mana increase so that we can get more and more resources to be able to heal. Block that. Go here. Get close to death. Heal up a little bit. Pray that we don't get one that. Here we go. Yep. Yep. Come on. Yep. Now we're gonna come up here. Wait for him. Same thing. I don't think we have enough mana to kill him with fire. Especially not if I miss. So now we're gonna just do a little bit of regen here. And you basically, the reason we're doing this is because we want the extra Destro levels. We don't want to kill him with the blade. Right? If we kill him with the blade, the level blade, and that'll be a problem. Got him. There. Now we don't need that. Don't need that. Okay. Can't wait there. Can we wait back here? Nope. Now, if you wanted an easier time with these enemies, right, you would actually take off the gear, right? By taking off this gear, right, you'd make it so that you had 100% spell effectiveness. Flare is doing 6 damage on target, right? So like we talked about, master difficulty is actually 1 damage on the target. So that's 1 damage each time. The moment I put this gear on and go to 78% effectiveness, it's doing less than that 1 damage. And so it just goes down. Right? If you take the gear, and if you took the gear off, then one, you're faster, so kiting them around that corner and whatnot is easier. But I mean, I would probably still use the shield of some type to block, because or you can block with the katana, but you'll sort of lose that health gain. He hits a little harder than the other one does. So we will take a potion of healing because we want to be able to use our spells. And then we'll use a potion of sorcery just because we don't want to have to wait on the regen. now we should be able to wait. And Master Mode, slow and steady wins the race for the most part. Here, right, it introduces you to like environmental stuff, which I wish was more prevalent in the world. Right, I wish there was more environmental functions. Right, there are some in dungeons, right, and you could push that log over. But if we did that, then there's 2 health bars of enemies that we don't get to actually cast spells at. So we just come up here until this guy can see us and get him aggroed on us. And then we're gonna run him over here and play peekaboo. There we go. So we go. Two's too many. And it's boring, it's tedious, it's annoying for a bit, right? Obviously we're letting so I think he's like 2 or 3 fireballs away, flares. 2, perfect. There we go. Now we pick up these and these. We got the dagger. I'm gonna run back here and wait. And we're gonna do it again with the other guy, but the other guy's melee, so we may have to run from him or block, like we did with the skirmisher. Quick save before the enemy. Come over here so he can see us. Run back here so he runs at us. And you can always run faster than they can, really. Alright, he'll come over here. Bonk. Block. Now, I have sort of like a health issue there. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm not sure if that trade is gonna win me out, so we'll come down here. Definitely not winning that trade now. So now I have to really book it. So we're gonna use sprint, run through these, heal up a little bit. Sort of third person look behind us, we'll see him, and use this stupid AI. Bring it over here, and we'll just let it all regen. And this is the boring part of the early parts of Master. And like this is not fun. He's a pain. He's fast. And I think we got enough here. So, 1 block, 2, block, 3. Dead. Okay. Only like 3 or 4 more things to go. Now, obviously, if we didn't have the armor on, the damage would be higher. That wouldn't take as long, right? Etc. Etc. And you'd be able to run faster. Take this skirmisher dude. Running down the hallway, straight line. Oh, he's a berserker. Sort of bait him into attacking by lowering your shield. sometimes. And we get to use our stamina. Okay, we can do that. Berserker takes our whole mana bar, but it's close. Right? Wouldn't take our whole mana bar if we had less armor on, but that's okay. I think we can still, yeah. Do the weight. We're doing that to refill our mana health, stamina bars. This guy right here, stealing some rats. Need him to run in a straight line. Oh, you almost got me. Now you could use a potion of like weak sorcery there. Or not sorcery, like weak health. We'll use 2 of these. And then we'll just naturally regen our mana until we think we have enough to kill. Much. I think he's like 3 away. Ironically, goblin skirmishers and goblin berserkers are easier to fight than regular goblins. Doesn't make no sense to me. Here we go. 2. Okay. Got another regular goblin coming up. Need to stop sprinting everywhere. Getting athletic skills. Okay, we're actually gonna wait so that we have a full mana bar before we cast that again. Hit him with 2. 2. Run through here. 1. To me. Oh, we're out of mana, so we're just gonna run and avoid the extra damage and block levels. I'm using third person to sort of like guarantee, because the minimap compass type thing, it is decent, but sometimes it lies. There we go. Get gold on you. I'll take that. Now, what do we have left? That's 1, 2, 3. So we have just the priesty lady. Let's get this. There's rat meat in there. There's a crate here. Rat meat in it. There's a barrel with ale for selling. And there's this, which would give you your first longsword, which is strength based. So, like if we were doing melee, right, this would better. It still shows as 1 because our blade skill is low. So there's really no difference between it and the like a dagger, right? But the katana is also, I think, strength based. So like, and since we have 40 strength, right? Instead of the 30 agility, right? So like, for example, if you're leveling, or if I'm doing this naturally, right? I'm generally using short swords and daggers because they're they're agility based, so they're doing only 1 damage, and I'll do that loop up there. Now it is possible that I'm getting too many block levels, right, or heavy armor levels that way, and now it would be better to use the katana, right, which does the most damage and eventually gets taken away from you, so the durability on it doesn't matter, which would save the longsword for later, etc. But if that's sort of like potentially determined, right? And that's something you kind of debate if you're doing a melee playthrough. But like I said, this is more universal start. Like this works for all builds, all characters type thing. And so we're just gonna throw out here. And she'll wait, right? She'll come in. Oh, hey, lady, no, leave us alone. Yeah, leave me alone. I don't want you crashing out on me. No, only me. There we go. Now will you stay over there? You're not out of spells. You're not out of mana. Yeah. Oh, there's level 25. Not enough yet. Oh. And the trajectory changes from first person to third person, by the way. Alright, we'll do this while we wait. I take everything to the vase, basically always. Let's do this. This will just make it faster. There we go. Take that for selling. She has some decent stuff on her, don't care about that. These guys I think one shot, but still cast on legit targets, right? So that's the other part, like destruction spells, and generally all spells, right? They have to hit a target that is legitimate, right? Which is why the looping of the power leveling of these skills, right, requires you to put an effect on self, because then it gives you the spell has hit effect or a legit target, even though destruction is an enemy spell, right? It goes it's sort of like if you have a really high cost destruction spell that has 4-year level, right, whatever level that is, and you pair it with cast light on self, right, and
protect the Emperor until help
then
arrives.
if Destro is the highest
Help?
mana
What
cost,
makes you think help will get here before more of those bastards?
Here they come
you
again!
cancel
The Emperor out of
spell, but it still does.
Do your worst! For the blades! Damn it! It's that prisoner again! Kill him!
Let's see. So
He
if
might be working with the
if
assassins.
The highest mana cost is Destro, then
No,
it
he
counts
is
as
not
a
one
Destro
of them.
spell.
He
But
can help
if it's
us.
got the
He must
light
help
on
us.
self effect,
They
As you
cannot
wish.
then it
understand.
counts
How
as
can
having
I listen?
you successfully cast light on yourself.
I've
So
said this.
it successfully casts on you, which means that the destruction spell succeeded, which means that you then get the level regardless of whether you hit something. The warrior, I think this is, it used to be like primo in classic. I think it's useless now because of the way leveling works. You're able to level these stats much faster anyway, right? This is literally 2 levels, and we're likely going to have those levels before we leave, right? You could put 5 in endurance, 5 in strength, right? It's a 2-level thing, and you'll exceed it. The other one's Atronach. This is fun. It does require alchemy early. It basically requires alchemy in order to power level your stuff, right? Or you have to wait until level 25 or so. I think it's 25 to get a maximum spell drinker, or to find a way to get to 100% absorption. And then in addition to whatever spells you're crafting, you have to also add telekinesis onto them so that you absorb the telekinesis, right? In order for that to level, right? So it's sort of mathy and tedious and whatnot, and it creates a problem early, right? With a Breton, this is actually correct because you get 50% spell absorption, which gets checked before the resistance. So the way that order is a spell reflect, spell absorb, then resist. So if you have spell reflect, and if a spell targets you, it first says rolls, if he has a 50% chance to reflect, it rolls that, right? And it says, okay, it did not reflect. He has a 50% chance to absorb. Okay, it did not absorb, right? And both reflect and absorb are 100%, right? So if you reflect spell, it reflects 100% of the spell. If you absorb the spell, it absorbs 100% of the spell. And then on the third one, it says, if none of those happen and it actually hits you, you get hit by the spell, but you only take 50% of the damage that it would normally have cost. So if you get to 100% magic resist, then you get to basically spell immunity, which is why the Lordstone is so huge, right? Early, because you get the 15% shield, right? Or armor rating, right? Which is basically, it says armor rating, but it's technically just percent shield, right? And for example, if you let's say you come walk out of here and you go to Leowen and get steel, you're gonna have 20-ish armor from the steel. You'd have 15 from the Lord, which gets you to 35, right? And then if you pop your 50% from your Breton, right, ability, the dragon skin, you're at 85%. You have hit the armor cap with just the early game gear that you can acquire with basically no skill in heavy armor, right? As your skill in heavy armor goes up, the higher that the value of the armor happens for your steel or whatever other armor you end up with, right? And this eventually fades away. If you have, like, let's say you're running around in full Daedric with armor 75, right, and you're putting it at 125%, right, and then you're reflecting a bunch of damage, so you're not taking a lot of physical hits anyway, so you're staying at that 75% armor cap basically through fights without needing the shield, right? This becomes wasted or useless, right? Same thing with, like, we did pick Breton. If we get a mundane ring, which is another 50% magic resist, then we're at 100% without this. We're at 115 with this. The only problem to that would be Astro Vapors, which is 25%, which would mean that we could contract Astro Vapors, which is basically like the worst weakness that we could acquire through diseases or whatnot through the game, which would create you'd basically have 10% left, right? Which would mean, so you're basically at 90% of whatever. You only take 10% damage from whatever spell, even though you're 25% weakness to it, right? So that's the only real endgame scenario where this works, which in application probably doesn't make math out real well, because you're just going to cure the disease. Just cast the cure disease spell, or keep cure disease potions. So, right, like early game, this is probably the best. Late game, it falls off, right? It's obviously early, great. Late, it just basically means nothing. In Skyrim, for example, on like legendary difficulties, I usually go and get this effect, right? It's a little better. I think it's 25-25. From the sigil stone, or from the standing stone, up near the Mehrunes Dagon area in the snow, right? So you go get that. I think it's the Lord Stone. It's the same. Yeah, so it's the same burst sign. So you go get that Lord Stone, and that eventually, when your gear gets high enough, I replace that with Atronach Stone, because the Atronach Stone doesn't have the same problems, right? So I think of all of these choices, right? Thief is fine, right? Because speed, right? That's not something you would level early. However, increasing by 10 luck is basically only means you're getting like what, 2 levels or four levels, I think it is, to your character skills, right? And so as you get to 100 with your skills, this becomes less useful, right? Again, anything that is agility, like that's speed or agility, I value the speed because it's one of the last things you would actually level for a character unless you're trying to be a speedy boy early. I could see some use, right? But once you're in combat, right, speed's great for dancing in and out of combat, but that's obviously not the play style of most people, and Oblivion really leans into the shield block, yeah, especially for melee, like shield block and then do two, right? Um, so this is, I think, a troll, right? Because the only real reason you would do it is for the luck, and the luck is only useful early and falls off late and is hard to just really justify. The rest of these, movement speed, but it doesn't do anything else, so sure. Right? I think the most universal and best option all around is if you're playing Master and you're having a tough time, go for the Lord. Get super tanky early. This also might be even better if you're running, like, say, an Orc that only gets 25% magic resist. You fire this up, or you use this, now you're at 40%. You get a Mundane Ring, you're at 90%. That might be enough for you, right? Or maybe you go get 10% from somewhere else, right? That's possible. So it's kind of up to you where you go. But if you're having a tough time in the early game, I'd say take the Lord, especially if you're just learning Master. Afterwards, right, when you get comfortable, I think Mage is the only one that has all upside, no downside. Right, everything else sort of like this one has 100%, increased magicka, or 100 magicka, right, which is double the mage, but it has 100% susceptibility, right, which is basically weakness, right? And 100% weakness offsets your resistance, and nobody wants to go for 200, right? Or if you went Altmer for an extra bunch, nobody wants to go for 200 of those, right? Or 225% weakness or resistance to magic, right? And you wouldn't have the 50 from the Breton, right? If you were Altmer, right? If you were Breton, then you get plus 50 magic instead of 100, right? So this is a niche thing where it can be fun, but I wouldn't do it, right? And then Atronach, obviously, if you're okay with this would make you super tanky, but this means that you're going to effectively early rush alchemy to be able to regen magicka for fights or for spells, etc. that you need. And you'll eventually have to sort of like math out how much telekinesis you're going to use, right? Just because using spells to augment and push your other stuff, right? If you don't want to use potions for regen in late game, right? If you want to use potions, like this is, get potions, make them, push alchemy, and this functions no matter what. The problem is if you were going to do that, you can do that with every other build. Why not just do it with resistances? And then if late game it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about magicka, don't have to worry about magic effects, etc. Right? I'm 100% absorb. Cool. But if you want to use any spells to augment your damage, like if you want to paralyze people, right? Or if you want to apply weakness stacking or anything like that, you're very limited unless you're fighting a mage, right? Or unless you're fighting maybe an enchanted sword or somebody tries to do an effect, right? Then you'll absorb it and get a little bit of magicka. But the number of magic effects that happen in the later game, right? Typically they're the things that kill you, but they're significantly less, right? Unless you're gonna go smack it, like you can kind of recharge it yourself by casting like a Daedroth or something like that, having it, smacking it, having it attack you, it then breathes and waiting till it breathes its fire, and then that you absorb that, and then you mana battery yourself. So there are ways to do it. It's just I think it's tedious. So Mage is probably, I think, the universal best for early game and late game, right? And obviously, Lord is the one that is the one for being tanky early, and probably even really effective with like Orc and things like that. So we're gonna pick Mage.
The signs I read show you're in this. You
Oh no, yeah.
You may as well.
Oh thanks.
Although I admit, things are not going. Stick close and let
I don't actually want the torch.
us do our
Because
job.
lighting is never
We'll
a
be all
problem in this game. At least for me. We're going to go back to flare. And we're just going to get chip damage. And we're going to try and make sure that it's only on the Mythic Dawn people. If it's on Boris or them, we could get ourselves into trouble. Like this guy.
For the Emperor! The Emperor's in danger!
Protect the Emperor!
You dodged everything.
There's no time to talk now, prison.
I didn't talk to you. You did. You talked to me,
What protects the
Boris. Yep, you guys go fight them.
God's blood.
you!
Okay. Okay. I'm just looking for potions. What are we at? Destro's at 25. And functioning, right? Still working. Yeah, 25 and change. Waited our turn.
Hold up. I don't like this. Let me take a look.
Yep. Come on. Oh, stop jumping. I'm getting acrobatic skills.
Looks clear.
And now acrobatics is actually really good. It's not one that I generally would put at major skill. We'll explain some skills. I'll go over them, right? And I make a couple of different adjustments, right? So we'll go over them when we choose
Damn
those.
it! The gate is barred from the other side. A trap!
Come on.
What about that side
go,
passage
let's
back
go.
there?
Worth a try. Let's go.
Let's do it. I'll stand all the way back here so we can do this fast.
It's a dead end. What's your call, sir?
I don't know. I don't see any good options here. They're behind us. Wait here, sire.
Wait here with the Emperor. Guard him with your life.
Go get him, boys.
For
Watch your
the
back, boy.
Emperor!
Yep, we'll stand close to him. Now there is a way to like create you so you can like do like the lover sign and then attack him. He pulls out his sword. You get his sword, but it's just
I
a
can go no
silver short
further.
sword,
Take,
which you
find
get for
him.
free in Leowin Fighters Guild anyway. So I don't think there's any point to.
Stranger, you
You better
chose
than
a bad day
I
to take
didn't
up with
know.
the cause.
You thought we'd go down easy? My sword for the dragon!
Oh, thanks.
No,
Thanks,
Talos
Boris. You
saved us.
moved me and he hit me.
we failed. The
Yeah,
Emperor.
no, you failed. I didn't fail.
It's here. You'll need.
All right.
There are rats
sewers.
and goblins down there. But from what I've seen of you, I'm guessing you're experienced enough to handle them. Am I right?
Oh, okay, sure. Now, you can pick any of the classes. They're pretty much all bad. So we're gonna choose the knight. I like its art best, right? So whatever art you pick, right, is what art it'll assign to it. So you basically assign like if you choose warrior and like so like we'll do choose a knight and then create custom class. So we'll get the knight art. I'm choosing combat here because even though, so basically to show that, okay, if you choose magic, destruction will level faster, right? But combat levels slower. So for an example is, I'm going to use a melee character, right? And this melee character is going to be functionally a melee character, right? I'm just using Destro to get there, right? And by doing Destro to get there, it makes it so that I can function across the board no matter what. And he continues to be viable throughout the entire game. So we're going to choose combat here. And then skills. You can make arguments for everything. I think endurance still wins, right? Because you want to have the health, right? And then I think willpower is probably one of the more important, with the regen being tied to willpower, right? And not to maximum. And since we're going to be, doing probably intelligent, you can make an argument even for like melee builds because of the way that strength or agility affects the physical damage, that they're less, right? Like it's more important to have the skill than it is to have the base stat. So there is an argument where you might also do endurance, willpower, and then push intelligence, willpower, and endurance in your skill tree for a melee build. So there is that. Major skills, here is where I differ from a lot of different creators and whatnot. The example here would be in Classic Oblivion, your major skills were super important, right? Old Knight has a really good video breaking down the difference between what happens with major skills and minor skills, and shows that on the math, right, your major and minor skills, the difference between them is 12%. Right? So like a major skill basically levels 12% faster than a minor skill, right? However, the combat specialization is significantly more. I forget what the number is, right? But the end result was that the combat specialization is more important. So if you're doing a pure mage, right, or if you're just trying to do spells, right, you're going to do illusion magic and stuff like that, mage is the most important part because your specialization is going to make those levels super fast, right? Now spells level faster anyway because of the revision to how they level being based off magnitude instead of on hit, right? If it was continuously on hit, we would actually want to just basically cast super low spells, which is how you used to power level it in Classic. You basically create a custom spell that did 1 damage and was basically free to cast, and then you would just cast it a million times on a high health enemy, right, that couldn't kill you or couldn't die, and you'd wait for 100 to happen. Luckily, they brought in the Skyrim function, which is it needs to be a legit target, and it's based off like the level of skill that you cast, or in this case, the amount of magicka that it has at base to cast. So we can't use flare or something low to do that. It would take exponentially longer at the higher levels. I think magic skills are the easiest to level regardless. Some of them are just a pain, right? Like illusion is kind of a pain because you really only start out with charm or being able to acquire, even if you make this your a major skill, so you get plus 25, you're going to get charm or you're going to get starlight, right? Maybe if you've got it major and you go to 30, maybe moonlight. And moonlight would be better because it costs more, and then you can spam cast it up to 50, and then you have access to things like paralyze and I think frenzy and some other stuff. So magic skills, easier to power level and easier to level in general. Restoration is also super easy to level. In fact, restoration, because it's used so much in general, I argue to put this in not as a major skill, but to put it as a minor skill, because if you even if you're going to use it a lot, because it will be like a fundamental function that you will do basically after every fight or during every fight, and so this will level far faster than anything else you have if you're playing organically or naturally. So the way I do this is I basically only put on here the things that are a pain in the ass or that I absolutely need. So let's say I was taking a melee character, right? So I'm going to go Blade. Blunt is really only good. It's kind of good early, but the weakness being attached to Blade is there's way more damage in Blade than there is in Blunt, right? Blunt becomes silence and defense, right? But that defense, by the time you have 100 Blunt, you're gonna be capped out on your armor anyway, so you don't need the defense part, you only need the silence, right? So it's significantly more value in Blade. Block, right? Because blocking is pretty important regardless of whether you use a shield or not. Athletics, because I think somebody timed it. I forget where I heard it, right? But it was like in order to get athletics to 100, you would need like 72 hours. Even with it as a major skill combat specialization, it takes you like 72 hours of in-game sprinting to get it from 0 to 100 naturally. So we want to get it, let it level as fast as possible because it's tied to movement speed. Armor, I think, is an important major skill simply because I've had a couple different runs. When I put armor in my major skills, it levels super fast, right? Because I'm in combat and major, right? It actually levels fast. If I put combat specialization and minor skill, it's kind of a pain, right? It's not that, mainly because I want to get to a point where I don't have to worry about the thing breaking. So I want this to get to 100, right? Getting to 75 is the big ticket, right? But getting it to 100 is really where your convenience, right? Like 75 is the power, 100 is the convenience, right? It's not necessary because you can get the convenience by getting your by a restoration skill once you unlock custom spells. So this is sort of like a thing that you can dance with or play with if you want. If you're okay with casting the spell right before you use armor every time, then do it that way and leave it as a minor, right? If you want to just get it to 100 as fast as possible so you don't have to worry about casting the spell before you do it, then I would say putting it at a major is your best bet. So we'll leave it without for now. We also want the heavy armor, right? Because heavy armor is just better than light armor, right? And is also tied to the combat specialization that we're doing anyway, right? Light armor becomes basically equal to heavy armor, but only at 100 skill. The only way I would ever do light armor instead is if I was going to do light armor for early game functions, right? So that I was faster and could, for the fights, I could dance in and out, etc., etc. But I think if you start light armor, you eventually have to power level. Yeah, and some of the best things for defensively in the game are heavy armor, like the Shield of Coral, right? And that's a heavy armor, right? So if you're using light armor and you even if you change out the shield and you use a heavy armor shield, that will break the 50% bonus that you get from the light armor. So you had better have enchants already to like exceed that heavy armor or that armor cap, regardless of whether or not you have the shield on or stuff like that, right? So if you mix and match heavy and light, that becomes a problem. So I think just heavy armor, it has the best gear, the best defensive gear, the best stuff. So, and eventually, once you get it to 100 anyway, early prior to 100, you're gonna basically use feather for movement speed, right? And you're gonna try and feather away as much of this armor weight as possible. And then once you get it to 100, it becomes weightless anyway. So you don't have to worry about it, right? And then you're a speedy Gonzalez regardless, right? It also allows you to tank hits, right? Which means that you're going to be able to push that farther. And if you heard that I am here, that's my KVM. What else? Alchemy. Alchemy is super fast to level, so I almost never put it as a major skill. Conjuration is if you are trying to be a Conjuration mage and you're not looking for like ultimate difficulty, right? It's one of the best ways to sort of make the early game easy, right? Just throw Conjuration in here, you automatically get a skeleton, and you're gonna be able to basically let it 1v1 anything in the game. If you're like, I don't want to fight that stupid wolf for 10 minutes, right? Casting a single spell at it, right? And having it break my shield one time because I misplayed and it ate me alive, right? You summon a skeleton and all of a sudden the skeleton two-shots the wolf, right? You don't want to fight bandits for a long time. same thing, right? And the reason for that is because whatever, like I said before, when you create a summon, it basically creates it as that particular type. It doesn't have a player tag. It doesn't get its division of stats. But I'm okay with more difficulty. I do put in destruction, right? So if you notice, we were basically only using destruction spells. We specifically reduced our effectiveness of our destruction spells, so we would have to cast more, right? We did all of that, and then we're also getting the destruction. Not because it's difficult to level, but because we want the boost, right? We want to get to 50 destruction as quickly as possible. Illusion, it's a pain in the ass to level. I don't like spamming Moonlight and Starlight, right? I want to be able to get there faster, right? So that's what I do there. Mysticism is actually not bad to level. It's pretty easy to get from base to 25, and 25 is all you need to get to Soul Trap, and that's really all we're going for, right? I can't think. Maybe if you wanted to do like a full mage build and throw up a custom spell with like a bunch of reflect and a bunch of absorb, that you could do. And then picking mysticism might make sense. But so we don't need that. And then alteration I pick up here. It's fairly easy to level, but basically this will give us early ability to cast feather. It's not going to give us access to feather early, but we can, like, the first place we can go, right? We can get a feather spell. So that makes it so that we'll be able to move faster. And by utilizing these spells, we'll be able to level our alteration pretty quickly, right? And we start from a higher base, which means we are going to be able to cast bigger spells faster, which basically means like this just jettisons forward, right? And then nothing here, right? Sneak, you don't need to power level. If you're trying to get sneak to maximum level, just go do the prison trick, right? If you and pickpocket the guy behind the bars until you're 100. Easy peasy. Light armor, again, I sort of explained why I'm not a big fan of light armor, and if I was to use some light armor build, I would basically end up doing like dedicated farming or dedicated leveling with like I'd create a set of gear and then cast like a spell with 85% armor and a long duration with regen on it, and just go stand in front of a bunch of rats, right? So that would be the way to do that. Marksman is basically only if you're using a bow, which I'm not. Mercantile levels stupid fast now because they fixed it, right? And because they fixed it, one of the things I found is that selling items early in Master, right, when you're like, oh god, I gotta get that gold, right, I've got to be able to do these things. If you start selling, like if you did the moment I get out, I'm gonna do a round of the Mages Guild, steal all the alchemy supplies and sell them back to them, right? If you did a round of that, you'd end up with 7,200 gold, somewhere around there, right, by the time you did all 7 cities. However, your mercantile and speechcraft would level. Speechcraft not so much, right? Not as much, right? But your mercantile would level, which would give you, if you're leveling whenever you have it available, it would give you so many levels in mercantile, right, that it's now scaled the world beyond what your combat capability is available, right? And so then you actually have a slog where like every enemy takes you 15 minutes. That becomes problematic, right? This is also true in Skyrim. If you play legendary difficulty on Skyrim, right, and you're playing a two-handed warrior, right, you do not sneak. You have to break your habit of sneaking every time you go into a dungeon, right, to catch and to walk up on people. Because if you do, you get sneak levels, and because in that game the world levels once you get the experience rather than when you put the perk in, right? So in that game it's even more important, right? Because at least in this game we can sort of like, you could get 1,000,000 mercantile levels and just never sleep and it wouldn't matter. You could get 100 in all of your skills, all of your combat skills, right, by different various farm methods, and then level up, right? And you would just blow the game out the water. But and so like this idea is, if you're playing naturally, you may want to save and hold on to things in a storage function, right? And not push them too much. Because otherwise you could get levels, right, that may not be beneficial to you. Same thing with security, right? Completely negated by the skeleton key. Getting to level 10 because of the new leveling system is not hard. Speechcraft will naturally level and is basically useless. Your fame will do more than your speechcraft. Sneak is easy to get, and acrobatics, while fantastic, I think it's basically, if you're, the reason I don't put acrobatics anywhere near this, while athletics I do, is because athletics is tied to your movement speed, whereas acrobatics is not. It's just tied to your ability to jump. And if you're going to try to do some shenanigans where you're jumping way up in the air to jump on top of something, you're gonna probably have a spell or need to create a spell that fortifies acrobatics regardless, right? So the only true benefit that I find that I'm really excited about getting from acrobatics is at level 25, which allows you to do a dodge, right? And the dodge is actually pretty useful. I like the dodge in the game. So it's the dodge and the ability to cast spells while jumping. Those two things both happen at 25. So that's the only thing, that's the only breakpoint I'm looking for acrobatics to get to, which is relatively early. So I'm willing to just suffer through the first couple levels, right? Or go find a doorway and jump underneath it for several stamina bars until you've got your 25. So this is sort of that's sort of like a breakdown of these things and why I pick them the way you pick them. You play whatever you want, right? If you don't mind conjuration making the game easy, pick that, summon a skeleton, go to town. Have fun. Last, we will call him Universal Start, just like the character. And like I said before, we got the knight art because we selected knight before we click custom class. If that matters to you guys. Not that I think this is the only place you actually ever see it and only time you ever see it. So yeah, we're good with that.
Really? I would never have guessed.
Yep, I understand. Now we got a pretty good big boost to our stuff, right? Which means we now have cold touch, which is huge. Protect, which we put on 5. Put flare we'll keep, and then shocking touch we'll put on 4. Right? Shocking touch basically we only use if something is cold resistant. Flare we use to pull things, and the rest of these probably don't matter because we're not going to use them really at all. Oh, and we want to go this way. We want to go through the sewers. No, we didn't get that. Now the reason, even though it does more damage, right, but the cost, right, so this does 10 damage, this does 15 damage, but the cost is 23, it's 11 more mana. So we get more levels out of using cold touch than we do out of using these, and way more than using flare, right, at 11. So we're going to use cold touch basically everywhere we go. And then we are going to put these. Oh, he took my sword. I forgot to keep a sword. So the first guy first goblin we kill is going to have to give us his sword. Wait for this guy. Okay, it's 2-shot. There. So we're body pulling these guys. And we can block with our fists. Not that it will definitely take more damage. Circle strafe him. Okay. Here's our pull, just in case we need it. Ideally shouldn't. We'll quick save to find out. Now, for some reason, if you shot that man with an arrow, you'd get both of them. But if you blast him with a fire... Yep, too much. Too much damage. Have to get him to reel somehow. Yeah, you cannot be circle straight. Well, maybe you can, but... Okay. I'm gonna heal. Let's see, how many potions of healing do we already have enough? Now, what we wanted is that we're actually, because that literally fixes all of this. Now we can block. I knew I should have kept a dagger or something on me. Now we do the same thing with this guy. Just with block. Much better. And we want to block as much as possible so we don't get the heavy armor levels, right? At least early. Because we want to basically want to get our destruction to 50, and we want to not have to deal with other levels in other areas to do it. Oh, see, our acrobatics is leveling. Here's athletics. Now, where's the last rat? Did you make it to the third room? There you are. There we go. And now, we're coming out of the sewers at 35 destruction. Alright, like that is just fine. If you did this with, if you were able to pull down your damage more, like for example when I do a blade thing and I use basically like a broken dagger or something like that to kill the goblins, it takes a lot longer. I get a lot more levels out of restoration from all the kite healing and stuff like that. But you come out of here at like 47 and level 3 or level 5. Oh, hey, you're not supposed to hit me. Since when? Who said you could do that? That piece of shit. Did you see that? I'm blocking. Why didn't that pop up right here? I'm here. Okay, let me wait for it to happen. How long are you gonna make me wait? Do I need to keep this far? Do I have to be in combat with something before you tell me? Give me this too. There you go. Alright. Now let's go find that crab. Where you at, bud? There we go. Bro. That's against the rules. You almost killed me through it. Oh, you punk. Alright. So now we're done with that. This is the first part, right, of this whole thing, right? I killed the crab, obviously, because I want the extraterrestrial levels. And that's basically where we're gonna find as many low enemies and whatnot, and just
We have no emeralds and no air.
No one
That's
even
never
knows who
happened
did
before.
it. Take care.
here. This is a safe place to push our stuff, or to put our stuff. So we're gonna put basically all of this, the nidite, anything that we would normally sell. I think that's basically most all this, and then we'll grab what we want out of it. Lockpicks. I lied about the non-mortar and pestle. Repair hammers, just in case something breaks. Which the only thing we're really worried about is the shield. Iron key, because I think that went to that one. Whatever, they weigh nothing. Here. The arrows, we gotta keep at least one thing. Okay, okay. There we go. Alright. Now, you just basically hunt down enemies to smack with cold touch. We have a little bit of gold, not a bunch. We're not gonna sell. So, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna come down to Anvil and join both the Mages Guild and the Fighters Guild. This also gives us a place to rest, so we will do that as well.
Hello there. You're vacant.
I want to take your recommendation
You are.
quest.
We Archman. It's this the good day.
Come over to the Fighters Guild. Same thing. Join you.
What can... Are you interested?
Contract. I'll take it.
Go take care of the rat.
Oh, I forgot to level up. That's okay. We're gonna go to our stump again because I forgot to deposit my heavy armor. Keep the shield for now until we get a replacement. Now that we've joined both, I'll go to Leowin. Now, ironically, Leowin is it's not the spot of the first, set of like quests for the Fighters Guild, but it's probably the first spot I would go for the Mages Guild, because at least on melee builds, because when I did the melee only type build and function, right, like this quest, by the time I got to this quest, I was like level 7 to 10, right, depending on how many things,
Hello,
or how the fights went.
They say a whole island with an
And so
inhuman
this
statue
place,
appeared
or this quest, was actually
as if the world
absolutely insane. It was tough to do, right? The bandit group was nuts. Agatha,
Farewell.
talk to her.
Janville is all in an uproar.
She's right
What
there.
is it, associate?
Yes?
Talk to you.
Good day.
Talk to
Go
him.
ahead. You'll see.
Talk to her
Yeah?
again.
So,
Things
Bye.
will change.
And talk to her.
You see, I'm blood.
Okay.
They have been
That
called
does
back
that
to
whole
Black
thing.
Marsh.
This should be open.
into the swamp.
Now, so I like to get this to 50, at least, right? We're gonna crank willpower, and then so that we get regen, and then we're endurance, right? We're doing 2. Oh, nice. We only got 1 level up. Sick. Usually, if I come out, if I've done the blade version, right, where I'm doing, but I'm able to like reduce the damage on the spell or on that I'm doing a lot higher, or a lot more.
How are you today?
And it does lower in base, right? Because of that, I'll be level 3, I think, generally at minimum. All right, so we got the desk, so we'll take the short sword. So we can choose that instead. We'll put our war axe in there. Because we don't need it. And that is right. Yeah. We go to the right. Come in here. We get to grab all that. Now we get real steel. Everything with regular iron gauntlets. Rusted iron is... I'm running. It is actually worse than just regular iron. So like that rusted iron shield is worse than a regular iron shield by a couple points, I think. And now we are ready to go do the stuffs. And so I would say, let's see how well it works on these guys, because this will be bandits, marauders, and marauder battle mages. And then we also have crabs on our way there. Do we need anything else? I don't think so. Alright, do it with cold touch. I don't think at our level there's really anything much bigger that we would pick up. There are some, right? But they maybe they would be good. But we'll take on some mud crabs first, so we don't have gold. There we go. And we can sort of dance in there, right? We are obviously slower to dance, being in the steel and not having a whole bunch of heavy armor skill. Where does Mudcrab go? I just saw him. Was he a rock the whole time? We'll track this as our quest. Sprint when we can. Okay, we're in combat. There we go. Let me just backwards walk you. There's the fort. Now, when I come to this fort, I like to go off to the right-hand side, over that like broken wall that I'm pointing at. And the reason for that is because there's usually like an archer. There they are, right there. And if there's two people at the fort, I don't want to fight both. Especially
Your
right.
presence here will not be
So?
tolerated.
Yep, we have an archer.
I won't you
Pop
die.
him all the way over here. He should run across there. Now he should go
I'll
into melee
hack
mode.
you to pieces. Take that. Yeah.
And this is already going to be miles better than the the melee version. There's somebody over there. Okay. We'll just wait for some regeneration. Now, if we run into a Nord, we're gonna have to use this. We've got this to keep us armor capped if we need to. A couple of these. Hold on, just in case a shield breaks. We can initiate a march here. Do some base damage this way.
Die, Kerr!
Now, I do wish that we still were able to cast while blocking, like we could in Classic. That would be nice. Hey, a first shield. A light armor person. There we go. Now we do have the only bad part, or one of the bad parts about Mage, is that that we do have to sort of balance our magicka, right? Like at some point, right, we have to sort of like look at our magic and be like, all right, we have to potentially get out of this situation as quickly as possible, and go and start the kiting. Don't know. Are you Imperial? Oh, no, that's Nord. Oh. And that's Master right there. Like, dude is, he's a melee character, doesn't say battle mage, and for some reason, he's got spells. And that spell just totally messed us up.
Yeah! Not the best you could do. I've fought mud crabs more fearsome than you. Yeah! Am I supposed to be impressed? You'll never take me down.
Okay, so now we're out of magicka, so now we're gonna run. We're running outside because we've already cleared it, and it has this really, and technically has a fun little gimmick point where we can kind of like bait him, and then he'll just stand there. So we just basically sit here and regen. If we weren't sitting here, we would be running from him, kiting him around those things, right? Kiting him around all of that, right? Getting him stuck on whatever rocks, etc., while we just nice and used our mana to heal. Once we were at full health, we would then wait on our mana to be able to get us to, or have enough damage, and then we'd kill him. So now we wait. Now, I'll probably cut the video, right? So when I cut the video, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to explain to you what I'm going to do, right? I'm going to clear this out, slow and steady, and some mages and stuff. Basically just getting as much damage as possible, right? If I can get this done, right, then I'm going to move up to here, finish this quest, right? Chaden Hall, basically get all of the Mage's Hall stuff done, right? This is non-combat. This is non-combat. This is basically non-combat, depending on what's in the route, right? This does have combat, right? And then this does not. This is a non-combat, right? So the only two things that have combat are Leowins and Skingrads. Skingrad being the easier for me, so I do Leowins first, right? So that my damage is more effective at these levels, right? But obviously, as you just saw, their damage is still gonna one-shot, even with 50% resistance, right? Which is crazy. I'm literally level 2. The world is leveled to level 2. That dude hit me with one spell and destroyed 80-90% of my health. So, in Master Mode, you do know you are just gonna die sometimes. But then, once I get to those things done, if I still don't have it, then I'll run rivers and maybe like Aelid things and whatnot, and we'll get the Arcane University opened up, right, in order to get to 50, right? What we're doing is we're entirely going for level 50 destruction. Now, Cold Touch may not be enough, so if that isn't enough, then we'll come over to Skingrad to buy some destruction spells that are more expensive, and in order to do that, we will go back to the tree stump to pull things out of there to sell to the vendors in the market city or market district, right? So we'll keep as much as we can from our victims, and then we'll sell what we need to in order to pay for the spells. The level to 50. Once we get to 50, then I'll cut back to the video. Alright, and welcome back. So, here, we finally finished all the quests, got into the Arcane University. I'll explain exactly how I did that. And then we very specifically want to pick this lock and get the, I believe it's 2 Grand Soul Gems that are filled with Grand Souls out of it. Alright. Okay, and now, because we are a part of the Arcane University, we have access to both spellmaking and we have access to enchanting. And we have 2 Grand Souls that are available. Now, I'll do a quick, I don't know why he's glowing. Weird. Okay. Oh, yeah. So, on the map, just a quick explanation. After we finish this, we were able to finish this. I'll put the gameplay footage at the end and speed it up so it's not super boring. But I think it's like 3 hours, give or take, maybe a little less. But this was difficult. It got to the last room, and then the very last guy was a little too tough, right? So I did what I should have done before, which was I came back, sold all of the stuff out of the stump, and then which gathered us like 940 gold. Gathered since we had 30 destruction out of the coming out of the sewers, we were able to buy up-leveled shock spells. In fact, our destruction probably would have leveled faster had we had higher level spells. So I got a shock and at both range and melee. Came back in, went in and got to the end guy. Still had a little bit of a fight there, but it was significantly easier. I was able to actually DPS him, right, and get him down, right. That for whatever reason, He is tuned way higher than everything else. The Warlord was a pain, but we could get him stuck in melee, and we could outrun him, so like that was just fine, right? This is a non-combat, just speechcraft, and we had the 200 gold left over from selling all this stuff. We had 307, I think, left over, so 200 gold for this was not a problem, or for trading with that guy was not a problem. This is non-combat, this is non-combat. I saved Coral for last, so then I came over here. This is technically non-combat. Went ahead and spent any levels that I gained from all of this non-combat function, right? When I rested at the Brynna Cross Inn, and then moved over to Skingrad, right? When I got to Skingrad, I did Kype a couple of the, I think, Olympics or something like that out of Anvil, right, and sold them, right, for a little bit more money, because I needed more money for Skingrad to get fire. Technically, I could have done it with shock, right, but the for damage purposes and for speed purposes, I went without shock, right, to go in here. You could go without it anyway, right, and rush it or use shock in, or with it. I used fire in here because the zombies, I believe, have a weakness to fire, or are already just naturally weak to fire. So I was able to like 4 or 5 shot them, and basically it took 1 mana bar for every enemy, right, which is sort of the goal. And then I could have probably used my shock touch. It probably would have been a little less, right? I might have had to kite a little bit and wait for an extra spell or something like that. It would have worked without getting this, but just for speed purposes, I went ahead and grabbed the gold here and did that, right? And then I was also pretty close to 50 anyway. I think I ended up getting 52 or something like that, 55. Right, so we did make it past it, right? We hit level 5, and then I went and did Coral and jumped up to that, and just got back from Coral.
What's new with you?
So I have
I saw a mud crab a couple
there
of
was
days
some
ago.
fighting for
Ugly
some wolves
little
and stuff
animals.
like that along
Disgusting
the
creatures.
way.
I hope to
also
never
did
see another.
Fingers of the Mountain quest just for fun, since we are at level 5. Finger of the Mountain is decent, right? It's a little AoE shock spell, right? It's on target, right? And it's a little expensive, but like I already have shock, but that's 20 points and non-AoE. So Finger of the Mountain is 20 points and AoE, but costs an extra 15 magicka. This would actually be better for leveling, but since we did hit level 50 in destruction, right, we technically don't need these because we can get the bigger versions of those spells anyway. Now, if you were to continue with mage, you would just, you would go acquire some more gold, buy some bigger spells, run those, and so on and so forth, right? I have 93% spell effectiveness because I'm wearing the shield right now. You can make that higher by dropping the shield entirely. But all that eventually comes down to, right? So we hit level 5, right? And a little bit, I think we gained a couple of level or some destruction skill on our way up to Cloud Top and whatnot. Finally get here and turned in the Arcane University quest, right? So that's where we're at.
Goodbye.
Now it wants us to
Excuse
make a
me,
mage staff,
fellow
but we
magistrate.
don't actually care about
Is now a
finishing
good time
this
to
thing,
talk?
right? So if
Good
I'm
day.
playing a melee character, right, and I want to be able to kill things, I come to the Chronosium. I think that's what it is.
Hi.
Chronosium. I'll come to this enchanting, right? What I do is I take whatever sword I have, take a Grand Soul Gem, fire damage, 6, right? Now since, I'll just make it first, right? Then I'll explain it. Shock damage, and since we went destruction as one of our majors and got all those spells, we have all these naturally. You can get weakness to fire. We bought this in Skingrad. Give that 3 seconds. Weakness to frost. Give that 3 seconds. Weakness to shock. Give that 3 seconds. Weakness to magic. Give that 3 seconds. Right? Now, this only uses 78 out of 85. However, if you really want, you could play with these and make them up, right? Or push them up. It wouldn't do, it would technically still do some extra damage, just not noticeably a lot. And you could get, I don't have Soul Trap bot, right? Or Mysticism at 25, so I can't use it. But you can also access or put a like Soul Trap 2 seconds on there. It's fun for like a Azure Star style thing, and since you can, it doesn't make it so that you would never have to apply Soul Trap manually, because sometimes maybe you run out of Soul Gems to be able to charge it, right? And need to be able to apply it manually in order to do something, to recharge it with the Azure Star, right? Because maybe you fought a bunch of humanoids and didn't have black Soul Gems, so on and so forth, right? But this weapon, right, doesn't matter what this enchant is on. If you make this on a weapon, right, because of this, on Master, everything's divided by 6, right? So this 6 points of damage is 1 point of damage, 1 point of damage, 1 point of damage, so it's 3 points, right? And then sequentially, it applies the weakness to fire at 100, weakness to frost at 100, lightning at 100, and then the magic, or weakness to magic at 100. Now this weakness to magic technically affects all of these, right? So on first swing, you do 3 damage, right? And then you apply these weaknesses, right? On second swing, this 1 damage, right, becomes 2 damage because of the weakness that it has, right? And 3 damage because of the extra, the secondary weakness that it has, right? So this goes from 1-1-1 to 3-3-3. 1, 2, okay, because it's applying 1, and then it has those 2. Yeah, so it's 3-3-3, right? So that's 9. So now we've done 9 damage, right? And then the next time we swing, these all stack again, right? Because the magicka is staying, or the weakness to magic is increasing each one of these, right? And so then the next one is doing technically the hit is a 1-1-1, but it now has 2 weaknesses, or yeah, it has now like 2 or 3 weaknesses to magicka plus weaknesses to magic itself, both of which are applying to the thing, right? So that becomes like a 4x, right? A 6x, a 4, and then a double again, and then or not double, but +2, +2, +2, basically, right? Every time you swing, you're giving 2 things, right? So what this results in is on master difficulty, this weapon, right? I use this enchant on a 2-handed weapon, right? For my character. He's geared to the teeth and whatnot, right? But he's basically by geared to the teeth. What I mean is he has a whole bunch of reflect, and he's at the armor cap, so on and so forth, right? But you would need all of that defenses in order to survive normally, right? But I didn't want to continuously kill things, right, for 30 minutes a fight, right? Because they just don't do enough damage, they don't have a way to scale, etc. And I found that applying these chances, now these, interestingly enough, if you took one of these things, let's say you did fire, and you did 18 damage, and then you did the weakness, right, and then you did the weakness to magicka, it would kill slower than this enchant does. It would, the reason I believe that is because you've separated out into 3 different elements, and each one of these is being affected by this each time, right? So like this gets 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, etc., right? And just doubles that over and over, or adds 2 basically every time, right? But if you only had the 1, you would only ever get that on this 1, right? So even if it was an 18, right, and you doubled it, you would only get that on this one. So you get 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Because you're getting it across 3, they are all happening independently. So this is applying to these 3 things at the same time simultaneously. Now, math-wise, or at least like, I'm not a mathematician, right, or a math. I'd love Old Knight to explain to me why these 3, this enchant is better than 18 fire damage with 100% weakness for 3 seconds and weakness to magic on 3 seconds. I'd love for him to explain it, right? But for whatever reason, it is, right? And this makes it, this will kill a, my other character is level 40. In fact, I'll just, can I get out? Yeah. Quick save here. We'll go to the main menu. Go to load. This guy, Tryndamere, right, is level 40 as a melee character, running around with a two-hander, right? And he, it's 5 swings. A Dremora Lord is 5 swings. Zivalai is like 5 or 6, maybe 6, right? I don't think he's played it and like messed with a goblin. I don't think I've ran any goblin warlords, right? Which I think should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 health. But they wouldn't be they wouldn't be able to touch him because he'd reflect all the damage anyway, right? But this thing doesn't, this enchant that I was just showing you, right? It doesn't matter what it is, right? And because it doesn't matter what it is, it will kill it, right? Making that enchant makes it so that if you are in steel, right, you have to manage the damage you're bringing in, right? So it basically takes, like, let's say this guy, he's got, let's say we take this guy, he's got 35, right? Now, for Master at level 6, or if we level up, that, you know, Master level difficulty, 35 armor is not a really good place to be at when you're level 6, right? You should have taken a lot more hits. You should have, you know, your restoration should be much higher than 20, right? It should be, you know, much higher in order to survive, right? In order to get through those fights. If you were doing like a blade focus build, right, or a melee focus build from the get-go, right, I usually come out of the sewers with this at like 45 to 47, right? And block is generally pretty high because I've been in more fights. My restoration coming out of there is either on its way to 50, right? Somewhere between 38 and 50, right? Like, it's depending on whether I have it as major or minor skill, right? If I think it was 38 the last time when I came out of the sewers on a minor skill. And then these, right, obviously, like alteration, I don't care about, because all I'm there for alteration is to get feather, which I would go do, right, once I'm going to be running around in heavy armor. And I want the shield enchants. I want fire shield, shock shield, and frost shield, right, which I can go buy from Trayvon, and I only care about picking those up so that I can go acquire more Grand Soul Gems, turn them into, if I'm doing it early, you turn them into Black Soul Gems, and then go kill a couple humans, which won't be hard with the new sword. You just soul trap them, right, or put soul trap on your weapon, right, and then have a bunch of Black Soul Gems when you go do a bunch of human stuff, and that traps those, and now I can take this steel armor, right? So my character in the steel armor has 20 armor, right? But this is with a necklace, right? You'll buy a necklace. This is 9 pieces, and each Grand Soul Gem, right? And you don't have to do Grand Soul Gems, but each Grand Soul Gem is 9% armor, right? 9% shield. So I rotate it, right? Or you could rotate it. You would go fire, frost, shock, fire, frost, shock, fire, frost, and then the necklace would be shock, right? And that would give you 90. That would be not 9 times 9. That would be 81% armor, right? Because you have 81% shield. So it literally wouldn't matter what these pieces were. You'd be 4% off armor cap. These could be iron, right? In fact, these iron gauntlets are, right? These could be iron, and it would still work, right? And then, and you would be at armor cap. And by being at armor cap, that makes it so that running around and doing your, you don't have to heal as much, right? So when you do get hit, your armor goes up, right? Only in big fights are you gonna block first, right? Like maybe you're fighting a Daedroth, etc., etc. And if you're so like at this point, even if you wanted to be like, I'm just going to, I'm just gonna use the basic weapon. Okay, we'll go soul trap some things. Now, I said earlier that they don't need to be grand soul gems, and the reason for that is that if you did a common soul, right? If you just went to vendors and found common soul gems or soul gems that were filled with common souls, they'd give you 7%, right? So like 7 times 9 is 63, right? That's close enough, right? That's going to be absolutely insane for level 5, right? Getting to 81 is going to be nuts for level 5. Right? And what that does is it just allows you to kind of play the game as if you have armor, right? And not have to worry about it being at the armor cap. And then the only thing you really have to worry about is when you finally get a replacement for one of these pieces, do you have a soul gem of equal or greater value, right? That you can apply the equal enchant across the board, right? Now, once you get to level 5, I'd probably also go look at picking up Namira's Ring, which is going to give you reflect and stuff. So it gives you some reflect damage and I think some spell reflect, right? So I usually do that, which means that one of these rings isn't here. So I try to, and I generally don't do my gauntlets, because if I get to 10,000 gold or so, I think it is 10 or 11,000, I go get the gauntlets of from Claudiel out of in the market district. He has gauntlets of the Antronach. I think they're ebony gauntlets that have like 30 resist all, or 30 resist to all the elements, right? And so those basically, that would put this Breton at 80% resist, and he would have somewhere right in the round of 60 or 70% armor, right? So as long as this is healed up, he's got 21 more. He's gonna generally be at the armor cap, all right? And this works even for two-handers, right? So this would be how I would do a two-hander setup, even if I'm not going to enchant it with the absolutely broken enchant, right? I'm gonna play the game with the sword and like grind out the long fights at the lower levels, right? And let the blade sort of like pick up and catch up to where I'm at, and then push forward from there, right? That would work. That would absolutely work, right? It just means so what you want to do is you want to enchant the iron shield or whatever shield you have, and you want to leave it equipped, because while you won't get the armor, so your base the armor you have when you have a two-hander would be the 15, you would still get the enchant part, right? So if this is 9%, you would still get you'd be sitting at 30, and then you would be sitting at 24 here, right? So you or you'd be sitting at 24 when you have a two-hander on, right? Because you would still be getting the 9, you just don't get the 6 from this, all right? So that's how you do it. That's how you set it up, and then I'll show you so this is the character setup. I only took strength to 50 for carry weight, specifically because I'm generally not running around with much, right, especially in this early setup and this early start. I'm generally not running around with much other than, I value the speed of being unarmored more, right? So like I'm going to block, right? The only time I put the armor on is if there's a fight that's going to be, I'm going to be sort of like enclosed, like for example the Leywin quest and whatnot, right? He locks the door behind him, so you're enclosed in that area with him, so there's not enough room for me to just kite and go far enough away and wait for resources to come back. So in those fights I put on the armor so that when I do get hit I don't lose as much health, right? But other than that, right, if it's kiteable, I kite it. So willpower is the primary focus. Strength is the focus up till 50, so that the carry weight allows us to carry the armor plus whatever quest items we need, etc., etc. Gives us, I think, 250 carry weight. If that's too low for you, put more strength. It's easy. right? Just put more strength, right? However, once I got to 50, then I focus on intelligence, right? Pushing intelligence allows me to cast more spells, which allows me to be able to farm or push that destruction a little faster. And then endurance, it gets the 2 points every level, right? Endurance is huge. We prioritized it in our thing. If you feel like you need more health, right? These are really, so because we went Breton and Mage, we got enough Magicka at the start to pretty much do what we want to do. None of the spells costs like crazy amounts. I think the biggest one's 50. Even at base, right, you're still going to be able to cast that for 4 times before it goes out, and then you're just going to kite or block and kite, right, with whatever mob. So this is really up to you, right, and how you've decided to build it. I would almost always choose willpower or prioritize willpower, because this is going to give you extra fatigue, all right, to be able to sprint and run around. But very specifically, it's also going to give you the regen, right? So when you are kiting and running around, this is what's doing that, right? And so if you don't want to feel like, you know, you've wasted your entire mana bar and now you need to, you know, pop a Welkin Stone or carry 1,000,000 potions with you or something like that, level willpower. It will help. It will help. It's not going to be crazy. When you eventually get to fortify willpower, it will help way more, right? But until you get to, you know, 300-400 if you get to 300 or 400 willpower, right, even the combat regen is nasty. But that requires ramping and so on and so forth, right? Which we're obviously not able to do yet. So that's how he works. I'll go ahead and enchant this and do the level up, right, and show what's gonna happen, because he is pretty much, this is the end of his life. He's not going anywhere. I literally only created this character to show this, right, and address some of the like issues with Master, because Master is difficult, right? It is mainly only difficult because of the percentage like the percent increase of damage that make sure I did all this right. 3, 3, 3 weakness. Yep. And there. Oh, I don't have enough gold. That's fine. So make sure you have enough gold. Let's do this. I'll take 2. Fire. Frost will go to 2. And shock will go to 2. And 2 is about the bare minimum, right? And it's okay because it's on a short sword, right? If you're doing this with like anything with a longer timer, right? You'll want to make sure that at least goes to 3. And if you want extra charges, you know, on a faster swinging weapon like a dagger, you can do 2 like this. You could do 1, but I've found that if you don't like interrupt the thing or interrupt the 4th swing in order to, with the quick menu, right, if you have more than 1 second on it, right, you'll get the ramp to fall off. So crazy damage. Okay, and then let's go here. We want a level.
Ah,
So
Magister.
we want the
I just
living
remembered.
room,
There's something I'd like to
the living quarters. Yeah. You guys need to wake up.
Greetings,
My bad. Okay. Now, let's say this is an agility sword, but we'll go back to strength. Prioritize willpower. Hit endurance. Do that. Okay, so we're level 6. We could start the Namira quest at level 5. We can do Azura at level 2. I don't have a glow dust. Otherwise I would go do the Azura. Or show the Azura quest.
Ah, Magister. I just remembered. There's something I'd like to discuss with you. I'm listening.
Let's see. Actually,
Speak.
yeah, we do have glow dust. There's one in Bruma. It's in the Mage Guild. Now, normally you wouldn't attempt the vampires this early, right? Like at level 2, that'd be insane. At level 5, right? Like at level 2 you can get the quest, but at level 5, right? Like they're just cracked. Right? If you didn't have this enchanted weapon, you would never do it. I also have a Grand Soul Gem to do it, and the glow dust is right there. Put our weapon away so we're faster. And Azure is actually really easy to find. Without like knowing her. I know where she is on the map, right? Obviously. It's, just basically east of Burma, right? But the best way to do it is that's Frost Crag. So we're gonna run to Frost Crag. And then once we get to Frost Crag, you can just go past Frost Crag, and there's a rope bridge on the far side that takes you to another mountain. You then run across the ridge of those mountains, right? And on the other side, you can sort of like billy goat your way down the other side of that mountain, and that'll get you to the portion of the mountains that Azure is on, and you'll be able to see the Daedric Shrine thing on the map. By the way, that is me. I assume you can use a keyboard. That is me moving to the far left, right? And or with my hand, basically moving my right hand off the mouse and two finger tapping the space bar. I'm sure that doesn't help my mechanical keyboard, and it'll die early because of it. Until that stamina bar's been there. Discover the old Frost Crag, and then just skip it. There's our rope bridge, and basically like we go up this ridge over there, that'll wrap around, and then we drop down the other side of that mountain. And we may have a wolf to fight. Usually I see a wolf or a timber wolf on the other side. Timber wolves being significantly more dangerous, but you can actually just drag them to the Azura Shrine, and those people know how to fight. They mess that thing up. Another point in acrobatics. I'm gonna jump this little chasm for fun. And this is what I mean by Billy Goat. Here, and then you can go straight down these, and you just, after you start falling, you press back towards the wall. You go this way. He's floaty. He's a floaty boy. And if you were like, if you walked this, if you slow walked this would be what? Why am I able to walk on this man's joints? I swear. When you're an old man, you will hate yourself for that. Now, when I'm coming here, I like to point at the glutted mine, because that is where you would go in, or where we'll go in for the actual quest. So I like to discover it on my way through. And then, once you find the gutted mine, you can actually just take the road down. So you can be like, look, gutted mine discovered. And then you can follow this road and it will just kind of lead you to this ridge, and then it goes down that way. But I'm not going to, right? We see the marker on the compass. Pull our sword out in case we do run against that wolf. Made it to the Assure Shrine. What time is it? I can't check while enemies are near. But
I have seen your name, traveler, and heard it whispered in twilight. I ask a service which holds promise of fame and reward. Many years ago, 5 followers slew the vampire Dratic and its kin, but all were infected by the foul creature. Knowing their fate, they sealed themselves up in the vampire's lair. Their suffering weighs heavily on me. Travel to the gutted mine. The door will open to you. Bring the piece of death to my followers, and you shall earn my gratitude.
we'll make it our active quest for now. We know it's at the gutted mine. Now, I do not have, I'm going to use the steel armor, but remember that I did not enchant the steel armor, right? It is base armor, and it's damaged. It's not happy about what we're asking it to do. And we're about to go in, we're going in here at level 6, right, with cracked out vampires. And a short sword. And apparently situational awareness of a donkey. Okay, we got weakness if we want it.
If it's a fight you want,
Pull
it's
them
a
one at a time.
fight you'll get.
I'm up here. There you go, lady.
No!
1, 2, 3,
Ha! You'll never take me down.
2. There you go. Like, what? Right? And I promise, it doesn't matter that, like, it hits like that whether it's level 40, right? Like, you get this to 3 seconds and it stays on there. You don't have to be quite so spammy with your attacks, right? But it hits like that no matter what.
Your presence here will not be tolerated. Let's get this over with.
2, 3. Oh, I pulled the second one. So, like, obviously, without the crazy armor, right? We or having pushed the armor, we didn't have enough armor to do that. So we can do we'll do it again.
Come to me, sweet flesh.
save, pull the one enemy, and have them come up here so we don't get the monk with them. Oh, I forgot to block. Couldn't see the attack. I do wish the visuals in the game were a little better, right? Or more clear. But what? This is that was 4 of these spells, 20 points apiece, right? So that'd be with 35% weakness, right? So I did weakness first to Magicka, right? Which is or 25%. So 25% weakness, right? And then stacked on top of that, so 80 points of damage, right? If you take the 25%, I don't think that offsets the 6x. So what is that? 1/4. So this is technically 25 damage. Divide that by 6, 24. So I did 6 damage a shot, right? And I did that 4 times. So it's 24 damage to the character, to that person. And it looks like I did about 24 damage, right? This would make it 30, right? That's got a lot of health. If that's 30 damage, that's got a lot of health. And this basic 666, right? Which is 111, so basically 3 damage a swing. To get to 24 damage would be, 8 swings, right? In 8 swings, that guy will be dead. Here we go. Here's the monk.
Am I supposed to be impressed?
See? Now in that one, right, obviously, she hit me a little more than I'd appreciate her to do. But imagine having, instead of 21 armor, if you had 80 armor, like that 81, right, from 9 soul gems, right, like that would be insane. Alright, you're gonna do something when I get close.
Do your worst!
Aw, I tried to wow it.
Now! This is the part where you fall down and bleed to death. Let's get this over with. Let's get this over with.
She's a pain. She hits so hard. Even if I block it.
Die!
There we go. What was she hitting with? increasing damage magicka. Ouch. You bitch. Alright, so what's the other ones? You have to hit this rock, right? One almost out of charge. So we'll see if we can pull just one. And kill it with the charge we have left. Oh, we pulled the summoner.
You're pathetic.
Let's see if we get the summon first.
I'm just warming up, you
Yep, we got the summon.
End here.
Shit, I think we ran out of charge there. She hit like truck. She almost killed me with whatever lightning spell she had. So we'll just charge this with the other Grand Soul Gem. That way we have enough. There we go. She died before the trap hit. That would all sell. We're only having to dance with these guys because we have the, there we are. There we go. And that's that. That is the quest for Azura done at level 6, right? With an absolutely cracked weapon, right? It's a short sword, right? And I have literally almost no blade skill, right? Like 31, right? Like that's that's the 5 they started out with plus the 25 from giving it a major skill, and then 1 as I swung it in here. And it just gets better from there, right? As you gain your armor, it gets better, and so on and so forth. And you can play it entirely as melee. And then now that you have the Azura Star, you can add in you can get your Mysticism up to 25, and add in Soul Trap, and then you can Soul Trap enemies into the Azura Star in order to infinitely refuel your enchant, with the exception obviously of humanoid enemies. So if you're doing an Oblivion Gate or something like that, I generally take some Black Soul Gems with you, right? I mean, grab some Grand Soul Gems, buy them, take some, or acquire them, right? However you deem fit, right? And then use those, or put them in your inventory, right? And then use those, or use that to soul trap like a Dremora Lord or something like that, and those count as humanoids. Or so they can only go into Black Soul Gems, and then you'll be able to refill off of Black Soul Gems, right? So it's a little more expensive inside of those areas, but it's also able to, you know, if you do the same start, you can run a mage. You do that same start, you can run a arcane archer, and you can just, you know, weakness tap them, and then you're applying the same or a similar type. You might do a larger damage, right? So you might do like the 17 17 16, right? Or a 12 12 12, something like that. And then your weakness stacking or ramping with like a ranged spell, stacking that up and then popping them with one shot, right? You can do something like that, right? All of those things exist, but that's sort of how you do master difficulty. And if you want to watch the gameplay, right, it can be pretty boring. Like I said, I'll speed it up, but and I'll put it at the end of the video. But it's not super. It's not like it's crazy good. Like I'm not absolutely cracked or amazing, right? Obviously I died a couple times in there. And like at some points, right, you find an enemy who's a little rough, right, and I drag them out to a place where they get stuck, and then I just single spell them down, right? Would have been probably easier had I bought the bigger spells before I left, but like and interestingly enough, with destruction, the base level flare and shock spells basically worked all the way till or were able to be made work, right, until the very end of that dungeon. So that's the whole thing, and hope you use this knowledge, right, to your effect, right. I hope you get maybe a two-hander build or something like that out there. Get it, if you do it on the cheap and get a whole bunch of common soul gems, and you're looking at having 60 to 70 armor base, and then flinging around a two-hander with if you put this enchant on it, it'll be silly. Get this Azura star, right, but do the two of those together, that'll be silly. And enjoy the game, right? And you can use any of this, like if you use this on expert, it's just gonna make it even easier, right? If you use this on adept, I think you're silly, right? Because it's already crazy easy enough. But till next time, you have a good one.
In the corner of the room, not sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip has pulled you into me. When I let you go, it just pulled you closer. It's a long departure. It's a long departure. Before I see you again, before it all makes sense, but I can't hold you back. And I still don't understand where it came from, but you're back in with the passion. I'm awake with the flame in a hailstorm. I'm back in, I gotta have it. Everything to do with what you give to me. Loosening my grip has pulled you into me. When I let you go, it just pulled you closer. It's a long departure. It's a long departure.
And we're flying so close to where we belong. And we're trying to go somewhere new. And I try to crack this iceberg open till it shatters through the ocean. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Gonna move the ocean current till the waves flood what's been burning. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. And I know I'm only getting higher till it feels like I can walk through fire. And I know I'm only getting higher till it feels like I can walk through fire. Trying to step back and see the view from above, 'cause I know that nothing lasts forever. And I try to crack this ice ocean. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Gonna move the ocean current till the waves flood what's been burning. I wanna make shockwaves. I wanna make shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you. Shockwaves with you.
You're a rolling stone, but I'm a cannonball. You're not fooling me, not fooling anyone. Got your head in a cloud, so delusional. In an ocean of all this emotional. Best be sure, I'll be looking for something You're a rolling stone, but I'm a cannonball. You're not fooling